you did electrical, and you did some instruments, and you did some gas dynamics, and all of that cotton picking theory worked. You know, and all the stuff they taught you in dynamics class and all that. Yeah, man, it really works. And
It's different. Okay, what is your name and spell it for me, please?
Okay. Lois Green. Loisgreen.
Okay. And where were you born?
I was born in Virginia, Lee County, Virginia.
And then where were you living prior to coming to K-25?
Beg your pardon?
Where were you living prior to K-25?
Where I lived in Oak Ridge.
In Oak Ridge. And what kind of work did you do before you started working at K-25?
I did public health nursing.
Okay.
And Army nursing.
And how did you get to K-25 from being an Army nurse?
How did I come to Oak Ridge? I visited my sister in Oak Ridge and liked Oak Ridge and applied for a job.
And you got it right as soon as you applied?
Yes.
And did you go to high school around here?
Did I what?
Go to high school around the
No.
area?
I went to high school in Pension Gap, Virginia.
And college?
Nurses training in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay. And so you said your sister lived out here.
Yeah.
And you came out here to see her?
Yes, she worked at Y12.
And, so she worked at the plant?
Other plant.
And what are your first recollections of K-25 when you got here?
Well, it was kind of spooky at first, you know.
What made it spooky?
Well, you know, when they talked about, so much secrecy, you know, about it. And, of course, I was in the Army where we had, you know, secret material too, you know.
Right. So was it kind of like the Army in that it had classified information?
That's
too?
right.
And is that kind of how you related it?
Yes,
And made it less spooky? And then what years did you work at K-25?
I worked from 46 to 78.
And that was all at the K-25 facility?
Yes.
And when people asked what was done there, what did you tell them?
I was telling them we weren't allowed to discuss it.
And were you allowed to discuss your profession? Like, were you able
Oh, we knew that we were a nurse. But we weren't allowed to treat, you know, tell what we treated all the time. Some things we could.
Are there still some things that you treated?
Like routine physicals, we could. But we couldn't talk about sometimes the material they were working with. Couldn't discuss it outside.
What about the people that you were, your patients? You could talk to them about what you were working with, or would they generally know?
They already knew.
They knew. So you talked about side effects and things of that nature with them? And what are your most vivid recollections about the time that you spent in Oak Ridge and at K-25?
It was very enjoyable. I enjoyed it. I liked Oak Ridge. And lived in Oak Ridge for first years. And then moved to Clinton, which is near.
What was it like?
Well, they called it the secret city, and that's what it was. You didn't discuss your work outside.
Did you have colleagues that you could discuss it with?
What?
Did you have colleagues that you could discuss your work with, just like a release?
No, not.
And what about recreation and things outside of?
Oh, there was outside recreation.
What was there?
Well, they had dances. They had card clubs, bridge clubs, and all the other sports, I guess, football and that for the sports outside.
What were the things that you enjoyed doing?
Well, I guess I played cards. play bridge. I'm a bridge admin.
Do you still play bridge?
Yes. 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, fun. I've never played. What did you like the most about working at K25?
I like the people and enjoy treating the people, the employees.
Can you describe the people for me and what you liked about them?
Well, they were easy to get along with. They respected us and just generally liked them.
And what did you dislike about working at K25?
I can't remember anything that I really disliked.
Oh.
I wouldn't have stayed that long.
Did you stay in touch with the people that you worked with there?
What?
Did you stay in touch with the people that you worked with there after?
Yes.
So you created some pretty strong friendships.
Yes.
Was there any of those that you'd like to talk about? Some of your
Well, no,
friendships?
they were congenial. They respected us and became close to us.
And then you said that the people were real congenial. Did you have friends and family outside of K25 and Oak Ridge?
Was I friendly with families outside?
Well, did you have family outside that wasn't a part of the facility?
No.
Everybody was in Oak Ridge?
Everybody was in Oak Ridge.
Okay, and how did you communicate with them? Did they kind of know what was going on?
I don't understand what you mean by that.
With your friends and your family, like your family members, say your sister,
Uh-huh.
how did you guys communicate? Did you just...
Well, like you would anybody, you know.
Okay.
We didn't discuss her work.
You just talked about other...
We didn't talk about her work, and we didn't hear about mine.
Okay, very good. And what were the physical working conditions like?
What?
The physical working conditions? How was it physically to work at the facility? Was it comfortable?
Comfortable. Uh-huh.
Did you have enough supplies and equipment?
Yes.
And your coworkers, did they pull their own weight? Did you feel like you were part of a team?
Oh, in perfect harmony with them. Uh-huh. Very congenial.
What were some of the things that you did?
What?
Being a nurse, what were some of the things that you did?
We did routine physicals. We did took care of minor ailments and saw that they were transported to the right facility, whether it was the hospital or to their family doctor.
And were there ever times that people had to be transported out for extra?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Can you tell
Heart attacks, major injuries that we couldn't handle.
what was your facility able and equipped with? What were they able to accommodate for?
Well, we could sew up a cut on a wound, and we could treat minor ailments. Tried to keep them on the job, as long as we could. Gave flu shots and to maintain the health.
And what were the things that you did the most of, the most routine?
Well, a lot of it, they were mad at their boss. They get a headache, mad at their boss, and maybe just wanted to rest for a while. We usually had the same people, the same times.
People with chronic headaches, huh?
That's right.
Are there some...
And a lot of times they just had a problem. Maybe they'd want to talk.
Oh, that brings up a good point. Did you have any type of mental health care at the facility?
Any kind of what?
Mental health care for people who just wanted to talk, who were, having a hard time?
Yeah, we had a psychologist.
And did people utilize him or her?
Yes.
And do you know the most common complaints or?
Backaches and headaches. Mad at their boss.
And what were the rules that were important to follow?
Well, we tried to take care of them as quickly as possible and put them back on the job.
So you guys were very thorough and quick.
Uh-huh.
And did you have a supervisor?
Yes.
What were they like?
They were good. They worked along with us.
So it was a team feeling?
Uh-huh. They made the assignments, and so forth. But
and you said the facilities that you had were very good?
yes.
Can you describe them for me?
Well, as I say, it was easy to take care of them. We had the equipment to do it with. We took the time with them. And also some humor in it.
That's my favorite part.
Huh?
That's my favorite part.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a smile will cure many things.
Uh-huh.
What kind of tools and things did you have there at the facility, at the
What
healthcare?
kind of what?
Tools? What did you use? What did they provide you?
Oh, they invited us and kept us in medicine for minor illnesses and minor injuries. And we always had an ambulance available to transport them, and always had a nurse accompany them.
Did you have a lot of nurses staffed?
Well, we did in early years, and then it dwindled down. We ended up with 4. When we didn't have shifts, see, we worked rotating shifts when I first went. And we had 4 end up when I left.
Were there any major accidents or things of that nature that you could discuss?
Yes, there was.
Could you speak a little bit about some of those?
I'd rather not.
Okay. And how much emphasis was based on safety in the plant?
Very much so. We had safety engineers, and they were always they were housed in the medical department, and then we had, of course, other safety departments. But safety was really emphasized.
When there were issues where the safety had not been practiced, that's when you would see the patients, mostly.
Yes,
And were you ever hurt at
No.
K25?
No.
And do you know what type of radiological or chemical monitoring was done?
Yes. But we weren't allowed to discuss that either.
Okay. Well, I had heard they used badges that detected chemical radiation.
Yes, that's right.
And anything.
That urine samples, to detect it. That was routine.
That was a part of your physical?
Sometimes they'd get mixed up and they'd see that the guard on the gate would talk about urine specimen and he'd think they had uranium, which was
That's funny. And you said you were there in the very beginning of things.
no,
right?
not in the very beginning.
What year did you come in?
46.
46? That's towards the beginning, not the very, very beginning. Did you have any idea what they were doing outside of the plant? Outside in the plant? Did you have any idea what was going on out there?
And going on outside the plant.
In the plant?
In the, You mean before I started working?
No, while you were there, did you know what was going on?
Yes,
And did you know what they were enriching the uranium for?
yes.
And what was your reaction
Well,
when we dropped the bomb?
just accept it. Oh, when they dropped the bomb, glad the war was over. Except that I did volunteer for the South Pacific.
How do you think that history will view the Manhattan Project?
Well, I think it was, we needed something. The war had to end. And you know, I didn't have any fear of it.
Did you feel relieved when everything was done?
What?
Did you feel relieved?
Yes.
And do you have any particular incidences that happened that you remember that you'd like to discuss? Any stories with coworkers or anybody?
Nothing except the one I was telling you about, that we had one who fainted, you know, and tried to get him up.
What happened?
We had a lot of things. Sometimes we'd have to tell a patient to undress. He'd undress the bottom part instead of the upper part. We'd laugh. You know, we had humor. Sometimes you have to have laughter, you know, and not dread. And of course, then when we had a death in the plant or something, it was tragic.
What would happen when there was a death in the plant?
It was a natural cause.
What would they do? Would the plant provide any type of services or?
No, they'd bring them to the dispensary, and then we just have to transport them to wherever the family wanted them to go.
Okay. And did K-25 help with like funeral services?
No,
Nothing like
I had
that?
nothing.
Did your work change after the Cold War? The type of things that you did?
Oh, we kept on the same thing.
So you still did the same procedures?
That's right.
And,
The same procedure.
and what did you do when they put the facility on standby? Did you continue to have a job?
What?
What did you do when they put the facility on standby?
Nothing. I stayed on, you know.
Your work was a little different because you there's always a job.
Always.
What are your thoughts about the activities that were accomplished at K-25?
About what?
The activities that were accomplished at K-25?
I feel like that they did a great deal, greater good.
And what was your job title?
Well, I was the head nurse when I left. I was the regular nurses, and then when I left, I was head nurse.
And what did you do being a head nurse?
Well, made assignments of who would work when and where and so forth. Did the ordering of supplies and medicines.
What type of things would you order?
What?
What type of things would you order?
What kind of what?
Things like medicines and supplies?
Medicines, medicines. And the supplies.
Were there any particular supplies that you used more than others?
What?
Were there any particular supplies that you used more than others?
No, used a lot of rubber gloves, you know.
Are there any instances that you can remember inside the facility besides the story of the guy who fainted and things like that?
Well, I was trying to think of something I could tell. we had an old ambulance, and we had a patient just transferring him to Oak Ridge Hospital with acute retention. They went around the curve. The old ambulance door opened. The ambulance slid out. We didn't have to take him. He didn't have acute retention anymore. They brought him back.
Oh, that scared it right out of him. What was your most challenging assignment?
What?
What was your most challenging assignment?
Well, I guess, like when we'd have a lot, maybe with exposures to something, and we had to get them out quick. I mean, wanted to get rid of them, like you'd say, have 30 or 40 people. That was challenging. When you'd have, say, 31 people to treat and check.
And what was your most significant accomplishment?
I guess the most significant thing was learning how to treat people, how to cope with people, and especially in stressful times.
And how did you do that?
By listening.
And were you married?
What?
Were you married?
Yes.
And did your husband work at K25?
No, he didn't.
How was that, having a husband that didn't work at the plant?
Well, he had a grocery store in Oak Ridge. Later, he sold wholesale groceries, and then he had a grocery store in Oak Ridge.
And
That was nothing. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it didn't cause any problem.
and were most of the nurses women?
Most of them were.
And what other roles did women play at the plant?
What?
What other roles did women play in the plant?
I don't understand.
What other things did women do in the plant besides being a nurse?
Oh, they worked all over. They worked as guards. They worked as computer in the computer thing. But they worked in anything, roads and grounds, whatever.
So it was pretty diverse.
Uh-huh.
And what about minorities? Were they treated any differently?
No, they weren't. I didn't think so.
And when you treated minorities at being a nurse, were there different standards for them?
No, not a bit.
Everything was the same?
I treated everybody just the same. We all did. And we had a lot that couldn't read and write, you know.
And were there programs to help them?
I don't think so. I don't know. We didn't in the dispensary.
And what do you think future generations should remember about K25?
That it helped end the war with their enriched uranium, you know.
And could you describe the great accomplishments and what should be acknowledged?
What should be what?
Acknowledged?
Well, I think helped end the war, because that was the sole purpose.
And could you describe the feeling that you had about your friends and your coworkers?
I have great respect for them. Great respect for them. And from the way they treated me, they had great respect for me, which meant a lot.
Are you glad that you went to work for K-25?
Why?
Are you glad that you went to work for K-25?
Yes.
Are there any other stories that you can remember that you'd like to
I was
talk
trying
about?
to think of something. I remember one fellow came in and he had a minor cut, treated him for a minor cut, walked to the door and fell out, fainted, and broke his jaw. We had to send him to that and had his jaw wired. I was trying to think of something else, but we had a nurse that when she gave shot, she always hit the patient and then gave the shot. One that nurse friend's still living. She was holding the pants. When she popped him, she dropped the pants and he fell clear down. We had fun, had to laugh sometimes. Then we had one we told a fellow to undress and go in the booth, and he went in the booth and he undressed above. Nurse went in and she came out. She didn't tell us that he dressed wrong. So somebody else went in, same way. I said, I guess they thought we were iron. And it's funny, some of the things that patients had come in. One came in one day, doctor said, what do you think's wrong with you? She said, I think it's my pituitary gland. And they'd come in and tell you some of the funny things. I told a patient one time, he said he had pain in his shoulder. So I told him it was myositis. And he said, what is that? And I said, well, it's inflammation of the muscle. He said, do you mean to tell me I've got pus in there? He thought he had pus in there because he had an inflammation. But anyway, it was a great experience, and I wouldn't take anything for it. And the people that I met. You're talking about Mr. Winkler. He called me not so long ago. He was plant manager.
Did you have any stories about him?
Huh?
Oh, no, never mind. That's it?